How did a state with a black population of less than 1% manage to create a Negro League team that would change the course of history? Well, today, our journey takes us to the land of 10,000 lakes to learn all about the story of the St. Paul Colored Gophers. The St. Paul Colored Gophers were founded in 1907 by Philip Daddy Reed. Reed wanted to build a dominant team, and to do that, he recruited several players from the Chicago Union Giants, a team that would later go on to be known as the Leland Giants. The Gophers were a barnstorming team that mostly played against other teams in the Minnesota area. Throughout most of their existence, they played at Lexington Park, and although they weren't part of the official Negro Leagues, they still played a major role in the eventual integration of baseball. One of the reasons for why the Gophers were so significant is because at the time that they existed, Minnesota had a black population of 0.3%. To put it in perspective, Minnesota had about 2 million residents at that time, and only 4,000 of them were black. That meant that there were people living in that state who had never even seen a black person before. These racial dynamics presented several unique challenges to the Gophers. For example, they will receive unfair officiating by umpires when they would go to travel in different parts of the state. Something else about the Gophers was that they were able to draw a lot of players to their teams because they actually paid them, unlike other amateur and semi-pro teams at that time. Another reason for their significance, they were a dominant team. In fact, their first season ended with 86 wins, the most significant of which came on September 23rd, 1907, when they defeated the St. Paul Saints 5-3. During this game, they had assistance from none other than Rube Foster, the man who would go on to found the Negro Leagues. You see, Rube Foster actually pitched for them for a few games. At this time, the Saints were one of the best baseball teams in Minnesota. That next year, their dominance continued. They ended their season with 97 wins. In 1909, the Gophers beat the most powerful Negro League team at that time in a series that lasted from July 26th to July 30th. That team was the Leland Giants, who would later go on to become the Chicago American Giants. The Gophers won their first game 10-9 after 11 innings. The Giants would then come back and defeat the Gophers in the next 2 games. But the Gophers then came back and won the last 2 games. According to Frank White, a black baseball historian, this series was so significant because it attracted baseball fans from all walks of life. Even people that didn't even live in St. Paul would show the Gophers' strength and show that even in a state with a 0.3% black population, how significant African Americans could be. The Gophers weren't the only dominant black baseball team in Minnesota though. There was also the Minneapolis Keystones, who were founded by a man named Kid Mitchell. Mitchell named them after the Keystones Hotel and Buffet, of which he was a proprietor of. Mitchell's goal was to rival Reed by creating a team that was, quote, faster and stronger than the Colored Gophers. But he didn't just stop there. He also signed some of the Gophers' former players. Eventually, these 2 dominant teams would go up against each other. In 1908, Mitchell and Reed agreed to a 5-game series, with the Keystones going up against the Colored Gophers. This series lasted from late August all the way into September. One of the most significant things about this rivalry is that the first game in this series is said to be the first time that 2 black baseball clubs in Minnesota had played against each other. The Gophers won the first game of this series, but the Keystones eventually came back and took the second game. The Keystones would also win the third game of the series, but the Gophers eventually came back and take the last 2 games. After they won, the Gophers were named Colored Champions of the Northwest. But all good things come to an end. And for the Gophers, that end began in 1910, because that was the last year that they would play as the St. Paul Gophers. Reed sold the team to a man named Bobby Marshall, who was a player on their team and was one of only 2 black players in the NFL in the 1920s. Under his ownership, the Gophers went through several name changes before eventually shutting down in 1916. Well, that does it for another episode of Journey Through Jerseys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. As always, old videos are in the description down below, as well as other resources for you to learn some more about the St. Paul Colored Gophers. So again, thank you so much for watching. God bless, and I'll see you next time.